I feel really blessed to have, I think, been mentored and supported and sort of shown the way of leadership by so many women who I'd consider my heroes. I think starting with Hillary Clinton, who's the founder of my organization, Vital Voices. She was one of my first heroes, someone who really recognized that she had voice, power, and platform, and she really used it to give back. You know, I think from a very young age, I always felt as though I was put here to really serve. In 1995, I was 21 years old. I was a college student. I was desperate, I think, to understand my place in the world. This was probably most profound to me when I traveled to the United Nations Fourth World Conference on Women. Getting on a plane bound for Beijing, China, with 4 different stopovers along the way, because it was the only ticket I could save and borrow money enough to afford. I really didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew I was supposed to be there. It was that sort of gut feeling like, I'm really scared. You know, I don't even know if they're going to let me into the conference. I don't speak Chinese. I hardly have enough money in my pocket to, to stay in a hotel for enough nights before I can get into the conference where I could stay in these cheaper dormitories. But I just felt like I had to go. It was something that I knew in my heart was going to reveal and sort of set me on a path that would be life-changing, and it was. Hillary Clinton, then First Lady of the United States, made her very famous speech.
Let it be that human rights are women's rights and women's rights are human rights once and for all.
And although it seems really simple, back then, quite frankly, this was a really radical statement. Even the fact that she went to Beijing, many people thought, even in her husband's administration, that was maybe not a good idea. This was a country that didn't have the strongest record on human rights, but she knew that the women of the world were counting on her to raise their unheard voices to the world stage. And sure enough, when she showed up, all the cameras in the world were trained on her every word.
It is a violation of human rights when women are doused with gasoline, set on fire, and burned to death because their marriage dowries are deemed too small.
And that went out like fire around the world. Traveling there to Beijing, to that conference, a meeting of 189 different governments from around the world, 55,000 women activists gathered in one place, learning about issues like female genital mutilation or human trafficking, or even the powers of microfinance or girls' education to uplift communities and pull them out of poverty. For me, it was transformative, and it made me recognize that I had a mission in life, and that mission really was to seek power to empower others, or to seek voice, to give voice to so many women and girls around the world who don't have a voice. Vital Voices was founded back in 1997 on the heels of the United Nations Fourth World Conference on Women. And initially it was just this idea that women's voices weren't being heard. Women were not at decision-making tables. Women were not as vibrant part of the economy as they could be. And we understood that, if we could get women's voices heard, we could make things at least 50% better. We never realized that a number like 50% was way too small. Power expands the moment it's shared. And women often really want to do that. When they're invested in, they want to give back. They want to pay it forward. And that's what we do at Vital Voices. We simply search the world for these leaders with a vision for extraordinary change, and we invest in them to take that vision to scale. I think I have the best job in the world, quite frankly, because I feel like what I do is I'm on the lookout all the time for people who have these extraordinary dreams. Women who know how to get there, they know the problems, they know the solutions, they just need a little bit of help. They need training, they need mentoring, they need a network of their peers, people who are doing things like they're doing, whether it be starting a shelter or starting the first girls' school in a Maasai village. So often when we meet women, they'll say, oh, I'm not a leader. I'm just doing my part in my community to make change. I'm just righting a wrong. And to me, those are the leaders. Every year in the spring, we pick young women in high school here in the United States. They come from all across the United States, different religions and socioeconomic backgrounds and cultures. But I think all of them are really united by the fact that they want to make change in our world. Our program is a partnership with Ann Inc., which is the parent company of Ann Taylor and Loft. And it's about investing in and mentoring the next generation. And they gain training. 6 of the women leaders that we work with from around the world. And what's wonderful about it is that through that program, we get to share with them the greatest lessons in leadership that we have learned. The first lesson that we teach them is that leadership is not a final destination, and that they shouldn't wait for an invitation to step up and lead change. The girls also get to come to our Global Leadership Awards, which is our annual event to see extraordinary unsung heroines on the front lines of change.
I made a choice a little over 4 years ago to consciously work on the issue of sexual violence, which is a global pandemic. And the model that I created using data and technology has been replicated across several countries in the world thanks to the power of the Vital Voices network.
And I know that these girls go back transformed. I believe really strongly that as a young person you have to take risks, because I think if you don't take them as a young person, you won't take them as you get older. Because the stakes for taking those risks and potentially failing get, sort of seemingly larger and larger as you get older. And I think it's important at a young age to also fail or misstep. And I think as long as you can learn from that failure, it's really not the opposite of success, it's a stepping stone closer to it. A mentor is someone who is really willing to stand behind you, someone who believes in your dreams. So they need to get to know you first and who you are and believe that they want to invest in you and they want to stand behind you. You'll find mentors all around you. It's not somebody that you're just going to go up to and you've never met before but you admire and say, will you be my mentor? You need to build a relationship. You need to build that mutual admiration and respect and trust with someone before they can really truly become a mentor that impacts your life. Sometimes as women we're afraid to ask for help, that maybe it makes us look like we don't know what we're doing or we're weak. And I think that's absolutely the opposite. I think when you show people that you're open to learning and being a sponge, I think that people have a lot of respect for that. For young women who don't feel the support of other young women, I think what they need to do is just continue to support others. When you act in a certain way, those things come back to you. And I think I would pray and wish for young women that someone would throw them into the deep end of the pool. In my career, I think I have learned at the fastest pace and certainly had some failures along the way in that learning process. When I've been thrown into the deep end of the pool, when I've been given opportunities that I didn't know, the first thing about how I was going to take them on and implement them or even be successful at them, to see that you can actually achieve it, that you can actually rise to the occasion, I think is a powerful lesson. There have been so many other heroes. Women like the late Inez McCormick from Northern Ireland, who was one of the first to cross sectarian lines that were dividing the community in Northern Ireland and said enough of our husbands and our brothers and our sons dying in this bloody civil war. Women like Hawa Abdi in Somalia, who runs a refugee camp for 90,000 people.
Whether to fighting or famine, we have lost as many as 50 people per day. But we get up, we go on, and we help someone who needs us. I am Dr. Hawa Abdi. This is my vital voice. Now raise yours.
And they make all of us believe that things are possible. Change is possible, and that we can't give up hope.